Scoutadelic. Hi, my name is Sean and welcome to this week's Telfer's Tasty Tuesdays. This week we're going to explore the wonderful world of Blondies, which are like brownies but with white chocolate. So we're going to be making something really tasty and I'm going to show you the basics of how to do it and how you can mix it up and get what you want from it. But without further ado, let's get on to see what ingredients that we need. So here are all the tasty ingredients we are going to need to make our very own Blondie. So first up we have 100 grams of white chocolate, and it's always good to get as good quality white chocolate as you can get your hands on because it'll be better taste, and I've roughly chopped it together. And then I've got 50 grams of chocolate drops. Now I'll explain why to you. I've got two different types in a little bit. I've also got 125 grams of unsalted butter, chilled and cubed up together in a bowl, ready to go. I've got 2 eggs that have been beaten together, and I've also got in here 1 tablespoon of vanilla essence. Okay. We also have plain flour, 200 grams of plain flour, which I've sifted, so I've put through a sieve and put in here, as well as a pinch of salt. We have 150 grams of caster sugar. I didn't measure in that, just a nice place to put it. And for the thing that's giving us our taste and texture, today in my Blondie, I've got dried apricots, about 60 grams of dried apricots and 60 grams of chopped hazelnuts. This isn't all of them, I've got them in the food processor. Okay, so that's going to make up the flavour. That last bit there, as long as you've got 120 grams of something, you can do whatever you like. You could put 120 grams of pecan nuts in it, you could put 120 grams of cherries in it. It's whatever you like to taste. So that's what I like. I like the apricots and the hazelnuts. The hazelnuts give it a bit of texture, and the apricots I think go really well with the white chocolate. Okay, so get them all weighed out, get them all ready. You'll also need a baking tray, obviously, to bake our brownies in. It needs to be deep, okay, and I've lined mine at the bottom and greased the sides. Okay, it should be about 33 centimeters by 23 and about 5 centimeters deep. Okay, but you can use most baking trays, so don't go out and get specialist equipment. Look at what you've got and see how you can adapt it. And I have lined the bottom with paper and greased the sides, but you can line the whole thing if that's how you prefer. Okay, so let's move on to our first steps of actually making our cake. So for the first part of making brownies or blondies, what we need to do is we need to melt our chocolate and butter together. So you will need to get a saucepan with some boiling water in, simmering water in, okay, and a heat-proof bowl, okay. When you put the bowl in the water, you need to have enough water in there to actually create the heat and the steam, but make sure it doesn't touch the bottom of your bowl, okay, that's really important. And then in your bowl, throw your butter in, and I'm going to throw my 100 grams of chopped white chocolate. Okay, so that's going to be ready. Now I'm going to change the camera point of view so you can see what I'm doing, because that's a lot more useful than seeing my face. So let's switch around. Got my pan of hot water. I've doubly made sure that the water doesn't touch the bottom of my bowl when I put it in. Okay, I've brought it up to the boil, so it has been, and now I've brought it back down to simmer. Okay, and I'm just going to pop that bowl on top of there. What this is going to do is going to create the heat for the chocolate and the butter to melt together. Okay, so I'm going to have to keep stirring it and making sure it's okay. Now, your pan might have metal handles, unlike mine, so do be careful because that is going to heat up. You can get your fancy oven gloves. I've got my fancy Mickey Mouse oven gloves to obviously go with my Mickey Mouse apron, because ask anybody, I'm a complete grown-up. So we're just going to keep stirring that until it's all nice and melted together. go, hopefully, once all your butter is melted and your chocolate have melted together and incorporated, what we're going to do is we're going to add our chocolate chips. Now, our chocolate chips don't melt quite as well as chocolate, and that's why I like to split it up, because I'm going to melt these together, but they won't completely melt. There'll still be little blobs of white chocolate. Now, for me, I think that helps create texture, and I just like it when you're biting in, you're getting lots of different flavours. However, if you don't want that, or you think, oh no, I don't like the sound of that, that's cool. Just up it. So the chocolate, the white chocolate that you chop up that I had to begin with, just make sure there's 150 grams of that, okay? As I keep saying, that's one of the great things about baking. You can trial and error things, and you can have it just the way you want it. So it's nice buying cakes from the shops, but sometimes when you can make sure you get exactly what you want, that's a really good feeling. There we go. So that is, look at that, that's all incorporated quite well. Just a few more stirs and we can start to see it's all coming together. Beautiful. Looking good. Yeah. Oh, I'm actually going to turn the heat off on that now and just let that finish off. Brilliant. It should all be one colour. If you're using the chocolate chips, you will see some of those bigger white bits, but you shouldn't be able to see the butter separated from the rest of the chocolate. Now, carefully removing our white chocolate and butter mix from the heat, and I'm just going to move this pan out of the way into my sink so I don't burn myself by accident. Okay, so we should get that nice mix. Now, I'm just going to leave it to cool a little bit, because we're going to start adding our other ingredients now, and if it's too hot our eggs might scramble, so leave it for a couple of minutes, keep stirring it, make sure it's not separating and going together, but it should look nice. Just a nice white chocolate colour really. So I'm going to stir my sugar in now. After I've just let it cool down a little bit. Scrape any of the bits out there. Fab. And I need to stir this in and make sure it's all mixed in well, so I can't see any of the sugar on its own. There we go. See, it's looking a little bit like a dough there. Okay. Fantastic. There's no white bits of sugar or anything. Just looking good. Fab. Next, okay, we're going to add the eggs and vanilla now. Okay. Once we've added this, we've got to stir it quite quickly. All right. So don't have to go mental, but if you just put it in there and leave it, you are, because of the heat, you're risking scrambling those eggs. So I'm just going to transfer mine into a jug, and what I'm going to do is I'm starting stirring it there, making sure everything that is, and I'm just going to pour this in gradually as I'm stirring, as quickly as I can, so I'm not letting the eggs stay still and then they're getting incorporated, so they're not scrambling. Brilliant. So I've now got eggs, sugar, my white chocolate, my butter all mixed together, and it's becoming a little bit more like a mixture now, isn't it? It's a bit thicker, but it's still nice and glossy, okay? And we shouldn't have any white bits from eggs, yeah, or anything else. Brilliant. Now from this we're going to add our flour and our salt, which we've got all mixed up in there. I like to add it bit by bit, so just mixing that salt around in there, and I'm just going to add a couple of spoonfuls in there and stir it together. there we go, all the flour's stirred in now. It's a lot thicker than I would think a normal cake batter is, and you might still have those nice lumps from the white chocolate, which is great, but everything else should be smoothly mixed in. It's quite a workout towards the end once you're putting that flour in. Maybe we should tell Mike and he can put it on one of his Keep Fit videos that he's been doing as well for his Oggy-lympics, but it should be come together so quite like that. So let's get a nice, can you see? So it's still runny, making that nice ribbon thing when pattern when you drop it, but that's good. Right, now we add our individuality. So this is the bit where I'm going to add my apricots and my hazelnuts. Excellent. And just give that a bit of a stir. Now remember, depending on what you're putting in, I'm putting dried apricots in because they've got a lot less liquid, because that's going to affect your mixture. So whenever you're trialing and trying new mixtures, remember that different things that you put in there are going to affect the mix of it. Okay, so if you're using fresh fruit, remember that's going to kick out a lot of liquid. Do you put a look at how that butter and egg mixture goes in there? Do you need to add another egg in there? Do you need to add a little bit more butter in there to make it a little bit more runny to compensate if you're using very dry things? Do you need to take some liquid out if you're going to use fresh fruit? Like fresh raspberries are lovely, but they do kick out a lot of juice. So just play around with it, see what you do, and remember, doesn't matter if it goes wrong, it's all part of that trial and error, and that's how we learn, so don't panic. Okay, look at that, that's all mine mixed up now. Now the next part is popping this in our cake tin, ready to go in the oven. Okay, so I've got my prep baking tray and I've got my lovely awesome mixture, and I'm just going to start spooning it in. Okay, remember to have your tin lined. I'm just going to spoon it all in there. Now make sure it's level off, so you can use a palette knife, or if you don't have a palette knife, again, don't panic, you can just use a normal knife. I've got a nice little angled palette knife because I do a lot of baking, and I'm just going to make sure it gets spread right into the corners. The mixture is going to be quite sticky, okay? A lot stickier than maybe you might be used to with like a sponge recipe. Don't panic, that's right. Get it in the corners, and nice and level, so it gets a nice even bake. At this point, if you can save a bit of your mixtures, or make some extra for some like toppings to sprinkle on the top before you put in the oven. I like it all mixed in, but again, that's for you to have a play around with and see what you like. Oh, look at that. So I'm just ever so slightly going around with it and making sure it's all nice and even. Brilliant. I'm just going to give it a few taps. That just helps level it out, maybe any air bubbles in it. Brilliant. I am now going to pop this in my oven. So I'll have my oven set for 170, let it preheat, and once it's heated up you can pop it in there, and I'm going to cook it for about 35 to 40 minutes. Now every oven is different. Anybody who bakes a lot will tell you what works in my oven might not work in your oven, and so just err on the side of caution. Go back and check it. Maybe just put it in for 20 minutes, see how it's doing, have a look through the window, and then, but it should come out golden brown on the top is what we're looking for. And with the magic of our YouTube channel, this will appear again, but it will be cooked. Okay, let's go. Awesome, so my blondie has been in the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. It's golden brown on the top, but still squishy and soft in the middle, and that's what makes a good brownie or blondie, that meltiness in the middle and that nice crush around the edge. I'm going to let it cool in the tin, okay? But what you might want to do is just run a palette knife around the edge to make sure, if you haven't used greaseproof paper, just to make sure it doesn't stick, but it should be fine. Once it's nice and cool, we can tip that out and we can start, and then we can cut it up. So it takes, depending on the room temperature or the air temperature, it can take from an hour to 2 hours to cool. So let's speed this up a little bit. Okay, so it should be nice and cool now. I can touch the pan without burning my hands. So I'm going to flip this out, hopefully. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So just going to peel off this paper. Well, mine smells good, so I hope yours does as well. But, oh, there we go. So there is our Blondie. Now, this should make about 16, so depending on how you kind of cut it up, you can have bigger slices or smaller slices. And there you have it, some awesome Blondies. Now, nice crusty corners for those of you like brownie, the edge of the brownies, and then nice and gooey in the middle. So let's take one out and have a look. Look at that, nice and flaky and nice and soft in the middle there. Brilliant. And there you have it, your very own Blondies. Now, like I said right at the beginning, you can add to this as much as you like or take away. Put in those flavours that you really like and you really enjoy, and that is the main thing about baking. Don't worry about them being picture perfect. As always, it is about having fun and about tinkering with it until it gets it right. These are just plain, but if you want to finish them off to make them a bit more jazzy, if you're going to give them away as presents maybe, or maybe take them party, you can melt some white chocolate and then drizzle it on the top, or maybe some milk chocolate to give it that bit of colour and texture. Or maybe you want to have a frosted brownie or Blondie and put a layer of buttercream on the top and then your favourite kind of sprinkle. The choice is yours. They are beautiful just like that, but again, pick what you want. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to ring that bell and subscribe and like the video. Mike has millions more videos on his channel that you can share with other people, as well as all this awesome baking. So please take some time, have a look, and why not share an idea with another friend. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.